you have to start with the outcome. What is the change that you are wanting or expecting to see from the activities that you're delivering? And then 4 key things in terms of monitoring and evaluating and getting feedback from those participants is who they are, what is it that you're looking for, how are you going to gather that, and also when are you going to gather that. And I think those 4 principles, regardless of, like I say, the size of the scale, are pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's funny. You've triggered a memory. We did a program quite a few years ago with primary school kids, introducing them to basketball. And like, how do you ask a primary school child like their experience of an activity? So that's like your what in that example. Like, what are we actually trying to measure here? Given that it's really hard to get that kind of feedback from a younger participant. And the method we came up with, which is the how of what you just said, was table tennis balls in 3 buckets. And at the beginning of the session, the kids came in. They each got a table tennis ball, and they had to put it in one of the 3 buckets of depending on how they're feeling. So like happy, sad in the middle, and then in the end they did the same. So then we evaluated or monitored how many kids were happy at the beginning versus happy at the end. Did the number of sad kids go up and go down? And what was so fascinating, we learnt the number of kids that were happier from the beginning to the end went up. The number of kids that were sad or sadder went up as well. In the same session. I remember that because we learned so much about what we were delivering, because the nature of our activity is that because it's sport, it's emotional for some kids, and there's a little bit of judgment sometimes that they feel within that. So some of them had a brilliant time, but then others didn't as well. So then we changed how we delivered it, not to increase the number of happy kids, but to decrease the number of sad kids. At the end of the sessions. I'll never forget that, and that's just based on that basic kind of 4 steps that you just described there.
And I think one thing for me that you're making me think is, with that group of kids, who else could you also ask in that space for getting a little bit of impact? So what would be the equivalent question you might want to ask the class teacher, for example? And that could be through some sort of survey, or it could be just purely, can you tell me if you have seen any difference for these pupils today in taking part in this activity? So you're then triangulating with a different methodology. That's just a conversation, for example. Or perhaps another way to get more information would be asking the coach what they observed about the participants. From their perspective. So already in one activity, you have 3 different people to have solicited feedback from, and probably using 3 different methodologies or ways of doing that. Yeah,
and that school teacher, that could be your phone, the voice recorder on your phone, like a 1-minute conversation. Hey, can you tell me about the impact or the changes that you've seen as a result of your class taking part in this sport or physical activity program? Record that, take that file, upload it to some sort of AI tool who turns it into a transcript for you, and then put that as an appendix in your report, and pull out 2 quotes and put that on the front page. Or just record video of your phone of that teacher doing a little interview, as long as obviously you got their permission to reuse that. And they would prefer just to talk it for like 1 minute than fill in a form or send you an email. But it's evidence. It's still evidence, and in some instances actually that'll go further than with your funders, for example, than some sort of written survey or something like that, because it's real. It's it's authentic. Some funders or some organisations might actually give you a template to work to. They might be quite prescriptive in the way in which they want the information to come back to them. So you might actually just be handed an evaluation toolkit, so to speak, and be left in charge with collecting that information. Yeah, and back to your framework though, this is one challenge for clubs. You started out with who. So who are the participants? Who are the people benefiting from the activities that we're running? For a club, the first step I think is sorting out your data collection systems for just the basic things like your membership or people taking part, like switching, if you're not already on an online form, switching to that. What questions are being asked in that online form? Are you asking for gender? Are you asking for ethnicity, just for example, and matching that to what your funder might be looking for in the future, or matching it to the census so you got the same descriptions, like just collecting that data into some sort of system where you can easily export it to a spreadsheet. I know that's kind of geekery, but starting with like how clean is your data? What data are you just collecting just in your regular activities, let alone some sort of special social impact program, just your regular stuff.
Standardized.
Yeah. You and I see so many clubs that we support where there's just gaps, just massive gaps in their data because they didn't collect something, they didn't know in advance. It's hard to think in advance, or what data might I need? What information do I have to collect from these people? Because you have to project into the future. But that's that 4-step plan. If you've got that plan from the beginning, then you can start to modify these things right from the beginning. So that kind of your sign-up process is both a business tool, it's a marketing tool, and it's an impact tool at the same time.
Absolutely, and you can box quite cleverly, either at sign-up stage, or you might do customer surveys, so to speak. You might, when are you checking in with your membership? And that is a temperature check. So what open questions can you ask during those phases that actually might give you some impact statements back? When you ask a community, what more would you like to see of, or what is worrying you right now in the community? That might give you some needs analysis. So these chances just to gather people's thoughts and feelings in a very open way quite often allow you to determine need, but they might come back with a great quote about how valuable this particular activity was for their family, for example. So I'm thinking of Summer Holiday Club that we ran last year, and we included a question to parents. Tell us a little bit about how this helped or was supporting your family, and we got some great feedback and quotes back from the parents who said, it helped with childcare costs, it kept the kids connected to their friends, kept them socialising throughout the summer, got them out the house so they weren't involved in too much digital activity. All these things that just came from gathering, allowing someone just to gather their thoughts.
Yeah, that's such a simple thing to do. Like, you can do it for free. You can use a Google form. You email the form to all the participants at the end. If half of them return it, then you're onto a good thing.
It's like a freebie, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's a really key thing. What stuff can you get for free? If you're already doing something involving a communication with your members, then step back from that process and think to yourself, well, what stuff can we get for a free night right now? Because we talk about it a lot, about that, over surveying or survey fatigue or communication fatigue. So if you're being streamlined with the communications, then let's make sure you get the most out of that streamlined process.
Yeah. So we're talking now about when in your 4-step process. So collecting data at the beginning and the end of somebody's participation is a simple thing you can build into your programs without having to do anything different. If you can also collect some data in the middle, then okay, now you're going to the next level. But at the very least, let's start with good data collection at the beginning and then also ask participants some questions at the end. So we really benefited for a couple of years straight. We ran a simple survey when somebody left our club for whatever reason, and it was just essentially asking why. And the data we get back is really, really helpful. And then another question we added to our sign-up forms for our membership and for our camps was, what are you looking for in a coach? Like, how can we? What does your child look for in a good sports coach? And we learned so much from that, because none of it was deep knowledge of technical basketball stuff, right? None of it was that at all. It was all like friendly, makes me feel safe, has a laugh, is fair. And so then we can go to the coaches. Well, here's what the participants in your camp this week have actually said they want from you. And so that's the behaviors we're looking for. So those are just basic, simple examples that clubs can implement to improve their monitoring, evaluation, and critically their learning.
Yeah.